Hi everyone and welcome to our webinar. So it's me and Caroline taking care of this webinar today, presenting news around Naviate for Civil 3D 2024.1. So we uploaded 2024.1 today. So it's brand new. We also uploaded 23. So 23.11 is the same version. So that one has been released. We will later on release the same version on or for 2022, and that one is going to be called 2022.21. And you see the red highlight of the last one, and that's what keeps these together. So when we shift version from 23 to 24, we add an extra one on the 23 versions and an extra 2 on the 22 versions. So that keeps them together as logical as we can. So you can see we are supporting the last 3 civil versions. And some of you might respond, well, the Civil 3D counter kits aren't released yet. We were actually informed that they would have been released last week. They weren't, at least not to our knowledge. We haven't found them. But I would guess they are coming pretty soon, hopefully this week. So what have we been up to? Well, one of the things we have done for this version is change of template functionality. And that means, I mean, previously we said that you either need to customize your own template to include our features. And there are some styles, labels, layers, and so that we require to make Naviate work nicely. Or you would need to click the import styles and settings from Naviate, which would include or import all styles, and download your template. Now we have changed, so all functions that uses a style or a setting, those are imported from a Naviate template. And that Naviate template is actually pointed out by a specific file in our support file directory that points to normally the language dependent template file. So this one includes our settings, and we import the styles needed for that specific functionality. So that will make it smoother to set up and to run Naviate. Over to some more detailed news.
A little break in there, Thomas, about the template settings. There is a blog post up on navi.com that details this, how it works and how Civil 3D handles it. And it will be the same place that we have this recording of this webinar as well. So you can go back and take a look at this if you have more. Want to take a look at it more in detail.
An overview of the details. So briefly, we're going to share the demonstration, me and Caroline. I'm going to present soon some news about volumes in intervals, where we improved speed and workflow. A new feature called min-max multi-surface. We also improved our subsurface command, especially some calculations that were not working 100%. The line style library has been improved with some new features. When it comes to pipe, we rewrote the create structure in profile because we had some stability issues with that one. So that one is brand new and works much better. We've added a function called curve pipe. offset in structure, a very interesting feature. You are able today to drag a pipe within the structure and place it. If you still keep it inside the structure, you'll actually connect it to another point than the center point. And we store this and we can restore it if you make edits. We have something called clearance solids. So we use transparency to visualize the clearance solid. Okay. We also made a few changes, quite a few actually, in our set pipe slope. So it's a lot of interesting stuff there. I could say that some of these features that we're highlighting in this webinar actually was added in the 23.3 version, but we didn't have an open webinar about those, so they are still, we still show them today. The same goes for Create Service Pipe, where we've added some features and improved some features around that workflow. So as you see, it's a lot of pipe functionality in this version. Naviate Traffic, we're going to talk about markings a lot. Markings now have previews. You can see the markings as you change in the dialog. We now have ability to set individual 3D layer on the objects. We have improved the reporting, make it easier to select multiple objects, and added some new information in those tables as well. We have something called marking label formulas. So the labels adopt changes in the marking. If you change the width, the text will update and so. And we also added a feature called sign elevation check or clearance check into the sign holder functionality. That's the overview. A detailed thing, this applies mostly to our UK and US customers, as I doubt that many Swedes or Scandinavians are using infra drainage, but if you are, you need to know that Naviate subassemblies, or the tool that we use, Subassembly Studio, actually collides with infra drainage, so infra drainage will fail to run. And to fix that, we've tried to get those two to talk to each other because it's out of our control. But what we've done so far is that in this version, we're allowing a selection to whether to install Subassembly Studio or not, and whether to disable autoload. So what we're recommending is actually selecting to install and selecting to disable autoload if you are using infra drainage. All Swedish customers or all users that don't use infra drainage should just select install Subassembly Studio and do not disable. And if you do disable autoload, this means that we do not load our functionality, so Naviate subassemblies won't work. So in order to get them to work, we added a button called Load Runtime, which loads the Subassembly Studio runtime, which is an extension for our subassemblies. So this, and I believe, Caroline, there's a blog post on this.
Yeah, there will be a post in our help desk about this, detailing how it's up. So, well, you can find the information there. I'll show you all the links later.
Yeah. So if you have any issues with this, you can of course turn to the Naviate support or to us, and we'll give you more information about how this is handled. Okay. Over to some real facts now. So this command, volume in intervals, has been improved. Especially, we've had complaints that on large surfaces it took a lot of time. Could take maybe an hour even to calculate the complex report. This is now 5 to 10 times faster. So if it took an hour, maybe it takes like 5 to 10 minutes now instead. We've improved the startup. So what issue was that when you open the report, it calculated automatically. Now it allows you to turn off the auto recompute and also to select whether to open the last report or open another report or open a table that's in the drawing. Finally, we also report the elapsed time and progress on the progress bar up here. So recompute started at, and we say the time and how far it has gone. We choose that way instead of doing the Microsoft percentage that often goes up and down and doesn't really reflect on anything. So we'll just inform you where we are at the calculation, and you can see where we started. So it's very easy to say, okay, it's going to take another 5 minutes probably. Okay, let's have a look at that one. So in this drawing here, I have two surfaces, two tin volume surfaces. And I am going to start my volumes command, volumes in intervals. And as you see, it now starts asking me, what do you want to do? Do you want to turn on auto recompute? And do you want to open a clean report or last report or table, for instance? So I want to start with the last report. And as it's turned off with the recompute, we can see that recompute is needed. And I can turn on and off auto recompute here. So much more logical. And if I now would like to import a new report, I'll do it here. I'll take the rock cut report. We can see that it now shows all rows, but it says recompute needed. So I can now make changes before I recompute. And then when I click recompute, we can see it's setting or printing the time and which row it's on. So we can see how far it has gotten. And this is much faster, as I said. And also to prove this, I think that this calculation took a couple of minutes or even a few minutes. I'm going to create 3D meshes from this one now. I'm going to tie it into the alignment here, and I'm going to. This is I can show the preview. So we're going to calculate this report within these number of boundaries, 20-meter distances. So let's start that one, yeah. And it says I need a min-max surface or a minimum surface to operate, and I say okay, calculate that one. And to explain this functionality, we use the tin volume surfaces. And for instance, I mean, this tool can calculate if, for instance, a datum surface of a road or especially actually without a road for any surface that cuts through a number of surfaces. And you want to calculate the cut of different surfaces. You might have existing ground, you have vegetation, you have clay, sand, rock, and you want to separate those volumes. Using a road design, you can calculate these with the QTO criteria there, but if you only have a specific surface, you cannot separate those surfaces. So if you use the civil volumes dashboard, you only get the cut and fill between two surfaces. It doesn't take care of multiple surfaces. So this one does. So we use each of the surfaces and we combine them, and we have something called subtract. So we can subtract between different rows. So we create different layers and we calculate between those. So we only get the cut that's specifically for that layer. And that's by using the tin volume surfaces. not only that, and you saw that this one took about 30 seconds. Previously, it was a couple of minutes. And I'll show those soon. What we also can do with this one is, especially in our Nordic region, we need to specify rock cut that's deeper or less deep than 1 meter, because we want to specify the cut in square meters, like this one here, if it's less than 1 meter deep rock cut. But if it's deeper than 1 meter rock cut, we actually want to specify the volume here. So that's where we need to report. And that's what this one does. So this one means between 0 and -1 is one row, and below -1 is another row. So this is how we define different parts of cut, and it's the same for cut and fill. So fill is everything where I have positive elevation, and cut is where I have a negative elevation in the tin volume surface. Okay, let's look at this one here. Did I get that surface? So just want to show this here. I have a 2D line there, it's gonna disturb for me. Here you see the meshes created. So this is the cut, rock cut that's less than 1 meter, and this is the area where I have deeper than 1 meter rock cut. And this is the soil cut. So that one has been improved a lot. Thank you, Mia, for participating in this one with a lot of interesting inputs. Very powerful tool when you need that kind of calculation. Next thing, min-max surface. We've had a min-max surface command that combines two surfaces and calculates the minimum of those two or the maximum of those two surfaces. For instance, it's widely used when you, for instance, want to have the lowest, let's see, no, it's the highest surface of the rock surface and the datum surface, or the other way. Because when we do pipe design below a road design, we want to know which one is the lowest of the datum surface and the rock surface, because the road is going to cut the rock first, and then the pipe design comes below there, and we want to only calculate the rock cut that's involved in or beneath the road datum. So that's why we need that minimum surface. Previously we had one, or we still have one command that creates the min-max surface between those two surfaces. But then it's only the overlap between those two surfaces. So to get the full surface, we needed to, or the user needs to paste those three surfaces, the two surfaces and the minimum surface, into one new surface. We've now created a new command. We call that NV min-max surface script, which allows you to create a complete surface. So all surfaces are actually pasted to the new surface. Also, we allow multiple surface selection. So you can select all surfaces, make a minimum of these. It's scriptable. So if you have, if it's very tedious to run, we can actually create a script for you, so you can run it in ACID core. So this is things that we are looking into, running more complicated calculations in ACID core, so you don't need to run it in a civil environment. Same command is now used to update the surface. This command actually is built from a number of commands. So there are a few commands new added to the what's new list. It's silent min-max surface no dia, so it's actually creating the min-max of each combination of surfaces, and that one is command line based. And then it's a command called NV paste surface that pastes surfaces on top of each other. And then there is a specific command that clears surfaces from our paste surfaces. I'll explain that soon. So let's have a look at this one. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go, yeah, so in here I have a number of corridors. So those are now only displayed by feature lines in these here. So these are pipe trenches. So we can see there are a number of pipe trenches here, and there are a number of corridor surfaces here. So I want to paste these together into one surface and get the minimum out of those. So I'm using our min-max surface up there, and here it is. I need to set the name, total min, and I'm going to select all of them. And I intentionally selected that one first and do remove because it's easier to click. So now I'm going to create the surface from that one. So now look at my screen and see it's first building the first surface, second, and the third is coming here, there, the fourth, there, and the last one here. So it's now building, pasting, building, pasting. And looking into this one now, we can see how it's been perfectly minimum, and those actually overlapped, so that trench got into the main and that one also, and so. If we look at the surface itself, first of all, we're adding all surfaces into the minimum surfaces into a folder called NV min-max surface, and the new surface has a lot of pastes in here. So each of the surfaces and the minimum and so are pasted in here. If I rerun the min-max surface script command, I can also now select surface. So I can select any of my multiple surfaces. So we keep track of those. So if I want to rebuild this one, I just click create surface because it's going to rebuild. So if you make modifications, we need to recalculate everything because we don't know which surfaces do overlap. It might change. As I said, I can click script, so I'm going to do that. I see I need to speed up to give Caroline the correct number of time or minutes. Let's have a look at this one. So this is the script that we create. So you can run this either in Civil or in ACAD Core. You can see that it first clears the surface. So it actually removes all surfaces in the total min surface before we start calculating, which means that we clear the surface of our stuff and then add our own. So if you've added your own edits in here, they still exist when you rerun. So we don't remove them, we only remove our own stuff. Yeah, I won't go in more detail there. I'll get over to Naviate traffic, sign clearance. We added a clearance calculation. So there's a new row in the sign holder manager where we see the clearance if we've added a surface. So we can see and we can edit that number for each sign. This normally applies, this is the best way to handle when you have portals or gantries. Then you will use this one. If you have individual signs on the side of the road, there are normally specific rules for how the sign should be placed, and I'll show that one before I hand over to Caroline. So I'm going to go to my elevation check. I am going to go to traffic. I'm going to take my check sign elevation. There's that function. I can either select in a drop list or I can click select and select the sign holder I want to check. Actually, I'll zoom in. I can use that one. I can click zoom. I can do zoom there. No, I can't do zoom. If I don't have this one docked, you're not able to click down here. It's an AutoCAD issue. I need to right click and do zoom. I'll go over there and do zoom. It's going to zoom that one. I'm going to zoom out a little bit actually. There, and I'm going to zoom out a bit there. Okay. And I'm going to pick a point. I need a reference point. So I'm clicking here. I can pick this point either in 3D or in 2D. I'm going to use 2D for this one. So I'm going to do perpendicular. Normally it's on the edge of a road. So I'm clicking that one. And if I'm selecting it in 2D, I have the surface option here to get the right elevation. So you see it's now comparing that elevation for that sign. That's not the one I want to check. I want to check that big sign here. And it now says that the UK above a cycle lane rule. So we have a number of rules depending on the market. Let's say that this one has a minimum distance of 2 meters. It's just to show if it's too close to the road or the reference point, I can actually move. So we're displaying your 48 millimeters to small. Let's say 3 meters instead. So let's see this one moving. So it's moved out from the road. We still don't fulfill the elevation. So this is the elevation check, minimum 2.4. We need to elevate all signs, elevate, and it's up, moved up, and now it's according to the rules. Thanks. Over to you, Caroline.
So let's just continue with the traffic updates that we have. So we have a small update inside the direction sign. Direction sign is what we use when we want to create sort of the larger signs, the one that we want to do individual placement for. So we have an update. I'm going to do edit on this one, that we can change the colors individually. So for the background colors, previously they were hard-coded. We couldn't change them. Right now it's a drop-down list. So right now it doesn't look that much difference, but this drop-down list means that you can create any colors you like, or rather any layers you like. So you can have a list of this. And this goes for the background color. It also goes for the frame color. So I can have any combination as well that you want to have. We can also change, we previously had the text color, but we can have different options for the text color, and also the arrows. We can have different options for that. So everything about the colors here are controlled by these drop-down lists. So when I click OK, I can see the difference in here. So this list comes from a layer. So I'm just going to show you inside our support folders, where we usually store everything. Underneath direction sign, there is now a list for layers. So inside here is where we have specified the name and then what layer to use. So you can have any layer you like. Just know that these layers need to be inside your drawing. So we don't create them, but we use them inside the drawing. So they need to be defined inside the drawing first, and then we'll use them for our direction sign functionality. So that is a part of it right now, and they look a bit different depending on the language that you're using. So just be aware of that. We have, if you want to use this for any drawing that you have, we talked about templates, and I'll come back to templates. But for traffic, we have a functionality up here called traffic template. And what this one does, it's basically opening the folder underneath here called templates. So you can have a specific traffic template, not that one. One step up. We have too many templates. There we go. Straight under the MV traffic and template. There we have the template for traffic, so that you can actually import the layers that you need before, so you can start any template really, and then just import the layers that you need. And that you can do with the traffic template. You can do it any way you like, but that's just one way of doing it. So that is the update that we have for direction sign. We also have a couple updates for markings, as Thomas said. So I'm just going to move over to my markings over here. I have a couple already prepared here. So we have a preview. So if I start my line marking, you know that it's the same functionality for creating as this for edit. So if I select an already created one here, I come into the same dialog. So if I change my gap, for instance, here, I say I want this to be 3, we can directly see the change in our plan because we have the auto preview. If you have a delay, if you have performance issues, you can disable this and we will remember that setting. But this is automatically clicked for our line and cross marking, so you can see your preview. We also said that we have label formula. This is something that we got that came out in 23.3. And so instead of having a specific, a absolute value here, you have a code that says name. So in this case, that means that it's going to show the template name. So if I change something in here, you can see the preview of the label formula as well. So if I, for instance, say I want to have length, then I can click here and I can type in the coding. So I'm just going to do, no, I'm not going to do copy because copy doesn't work inside here. So I'm going to have to do this manually, but it's usually not that difficult. So I'm going to have length and then the parentheses correctly there. And that will update the preview. So now I have the length there. If I change the length, we can see that the preview updates. So the preview there, and that means that the label is also updating how you want this to be. And again, if you're wondering what can I have, if you just hover over it, you can see the available fields there and how to formulate them in there. And also in here we have a 3D markings layer. So if you have a projection active, you'll have an individual layer here for 3D markings that is stored connected to the template. So you can store it individually depending on the template that you're using. The first time you can use this for older templates, and we will add 3D projection layer inside that template. But if it doesn't find anything inside the template, it will use the standard one. So it will sort of update as you go with this 3D projection layer inside there. So let's just do OK, and we can see that the change happens. One thing, or two things rather. First thing is that I said that we have the auto preview for line markings and cross markings. We don't have it for area markings. We don't have it active for area markings. So if I change my area marking over here, we can see that the auto preview is not active. And that is simply because these are usually even more resource dependent, that they are taking a lot of performance from your computer. So we decided that, well, we'll just not have it active there. But if you want this to be active, you can just tick it, and then I can see, okay, I want this gap to be larger, and it will update automatically. But just know that we don't store that as default, if you're wondering why that happens. Otherwise, we have the same here with the 3D markings layer. So these changes affect all our markings functionality there. There was also a update to the report, and again, we're on 23.3, but they are part of the new ones. And that was for the sign report that we can do. I don't actually have a sign inside this drawing, so I just want to do a quick sign. So we haven't done that much with our signage right now, the actual sign functionality, except the elevation that Thomas showed. So that is pretty standard how it would be. But if I do a sign like that, what we did with our table, with our reporting, is that for the sign report, you have the option of using all. And all means everything that is in the drawing and everything that will come in the drawing. So if I use all for this table, click OK, and just place the table inside my drawing. I'll just zoom it in over here so I can have it two-way. So if I have my table there, if I now create a copy, for instance, I can copy my sign holder. If I know that, well, I want to have the same here, I can just do a copy of it. So I get a copy of my sign holder, and then I can update the report, update sign report, and now I have two there. So all means everything that is coming, everything that is there. If I remove something, it will update as well. So that was the changes that we made for our reports as well that we did here. So those were the things that we had that were major things for the traffic. We have a lot of fixes, and I'm going to show you, I can actually show you right now. They are, our release news are published, so they are up on Naviate.com. And if we take a look at the traffic, we have a couple of fixes as well. So that sort of errors that we have, and we have that for everything. We're not going to go through all of them, but if you're interested to take a look at what we actually sort of like everything that we've done, they are now up on the Naviate.com, so you can find our release news there. And you can also find this webinar here later on that you have. Good. So that was what we had for our traffic part. So let's move over to the pipe. So for pipe, as Thomas showed you, there are quite a few functionalities that are new. So I want to show you the first one, which is create structure. So we had a functionality previously for creating structures in profile. This was actually a transparent command. You could use it inside create structure, but we reworked this. So now it's a standalone functionality, create structure. So it's placed in the same place where you can do. So if I realize now that I want to have, or I need to have more structures inside my profile, I can just run this straight up. I don't need to do anything else. Select my pipe, select an insertion point. I don't need to snap. I don't need to do really click anywhere specific here. So if I know that, well, I want this to be at the high point here, I can actually snap on my high point and it will be that placement. So if I want this to be a larger, well, it will be placed there. And it will also be placed if I just, so you don't think that I fool you anyway, it will be placed in the plan as well, and it will break the structure. So it's a perfectly normal Civil 3D structure. You can also notice that it's not placed on the alignment. So we're actually placing it off center from the alignment. And it doesn't seem to matter where it is, how far away it is. It's finding the pipe and it's placing it. It's projecting the placement from the profile that we have here. And also I can do it immediately on the next structure. I can click just a little bit south here, and I get that. So it will find the parts list that it's supposed to and add the structure to that. So it's a very simple way of creating structures directly from your profile and getting them placed in your plan how you want them to be. We also have curved pipe and straight pipe. So if you have structures or if you have pipes already placed in your drawing that should be arcs instead, or should be curved, we have these options up here, curved pipe and straight pipe. So curved pipe, as the name implies, creates a curve from the pipe. But the important part here is that it's actually remaining, maintaining the slopes and elevation. So it's not changing anything with the pipe, it's just doing a curve from it. And it also placing a random curve, so then you need to sort of place it how you would like it to be. But if it is a curve, then we can do changes for the curve. But it's keeping the elevations from it and keeping the projection. So if you have that information on it, it will stay. If you then realize that you need to go back, or if you've done the curved pipe, you need to be straight, you can go back by going to straight pipe. Same thing here. It will keep the pipe as the object it is. It's just changing it for the curve instead. So those two are up here, curved pipe and straight pipe as well. There you go. Then we had offset in structure. Now this one is really interesting, actually. Something that we got from the UK to do curves. I'm just going to remove that one there, just to sort of clean it up. So I have my structure over here. I'm actually going to remove my alignment, not remove my alignment, but I'm going to turn off the alignment. So it makes more sense. There we go. So now I have a structure here. So as you know, pipes are connected inside in the center of the structure. So you can move these. This is a Civil 3D thing. You can move these as long as you're inside the structure. It will still be connected, but you can actually move them sort of off center, just dragging them around like this. But as soon as you move the structure or you update anything, sort of rework everything, then they will snap back into center. So what we've done here is under pipe offsets, we have functionality called store pipe offsets. So with store, you can actually select what you want to do. So I want to store these offsets. I can select my parts, or I can just say all. So I can select individual parts, networks, or all. And then it's just going to store this layout. So now if I move this structure, if I do anything else that updates them, you'll see that it's snapping back. And then I can run the same command here to restore the settings. And then I'm going to apply it to all, and it's just restoring the settings to it. So that is the main command that we have. So you need to do the moving on your own, and then you can store the information. These two, store all, restore all, is just macro versions of the first one. So you can just store everything and then restore everything, just to make it easy to sort of do all the things in your drawing. We can combine this because we already had a command called pipe to edge where we actually moved everything. So I'm gonna just run this one on my storm here. I'm just gonna run it on networks, maintain the elevation here. What this functionality does, it's moving the pipes to the edge. So it's just cutting them off, or rather moving the elevation out to the edge so that we can get elevation points in the correct place in the profile. But the same thing here, it works like this, but it will sort of revert back if I update anything. So I can move this one with the pipe offsets and then store all the pipe offsets. I'm just going to do store all. It's just storing everything in my drawing. And then if I move something, for instance, if I do nudge, which is my easiest way, so I'm just going to nudge everything. Nudge just moves everything, in this case 3 millimeters. And now they are snapped back. And this could be that you have moved them, that you've updated to a 3D poly, if you just run regen the pipe network, anything like that. And then we can just restore the offsets, and it's moving them back to the center location that we have over there. So this one is a useful tool if you want to sort of have a more real look on your pipes, that you want them to actually end up in the end of the pipe. One thing, just so you know, you can't move these if you have a hatch visible. So you'll see here that if I have the hatch visible inside my structure, it's always going to end up in the center. I can't move this around. And that is why we have underneath here fill off and fill on, because fill just turns off the hatches and doesn't remove them. So if I do fill off, the hatch is gone, and then I can move my pipe, and then I can just do fill on. So just a tip, just if you have hatches, if you have something inside, just know that it messes with this functionality. So that was the offset in structure that we have as well. Another new functionality, I also need to speed up apparently, is our clearance solids. So Thomas told you about this, where we create clearance solids with a transparency so we get something to view. So I'm actually just gonna turn up this in 3D just so we can see how it looks. So I'm gonna select my pipe, and then I'm gonna flip this one up to a 3D view so that we can see the pipe. There we go. So here are my pipes, my pipe network pipes. So if I do clearance solids, so clearance solids, same thing here. These are macro versions of the original command, just to be able to update and sort of make it simple. So clearance solids, selecting the object that you want to create the clearance solids for. And then I just do enter, because in the dialog, I can select either the selected pipes or the pipe network that the pipe contains. So you don't need to select everything. How much clearance do you want? I want this to be 0.3. How much transparency do you want on the solids, and what layer do you want to place them on? As soon as I click OK, I will get solids around the pipes with a little bit of transparency so you don't see them as clearly, but you'll get an indication of where they are. So you get these pipes like that. So, and these could be used for anything, but mostly it's for a sort of visual representation. You can also do collision clash detection. What's the word I was looking for? If you move your pipes, we can do update. So the same functionality does update, or you can use the combine macro and just do update all, and it's just going to update the solids. And this goes for dimension and everything like that. So it's actually taking into consideration the dimension of the pipes. So that was clearance solid that we have up there. So those were the new commands that we have for pipe. We have updated a couple of commands, and we actually don't have any new functionality left. So from now on, it's going to be updates that we have done. So I'm going to move over to the landscape inside this drawing. So for the landscape part, I'm actually just going to do a very quick audit, because I know that I had some troubles. When it comes to the direction sign, just a tip, since we've made changes for the direction sign, if you have already existing ones, a tip is to do an audit for these ones, because I noticed that the blocks, we did some changes with how we handle it. So an audit sort of solved it for my original direction signs. So just be aware that audit is never a bad idea to do. But let's just go through the landscape. For the landscape, we actually added some stuff inside a line style library that I wanted to show you. So line style library is where we can create lines based on a CSV. And what we added in here, if I'm just going to do my example, for 23.3, we have added the auto add hatch and auto add property set. So we can automatically both hatch the lines and add the property set. Inside the CSV files for this, you have the CSV that we should use. What we add in 24.1 is we have also the rotate hatch. So it's actually released to have the 24.1 in here. So I'm just going to do a brick area here, a 3D poly. And we can, so if I just do a line here, it should add a, so I'm just going to close, and it's adding the hatch directly to this line, like that. We're also adding the property set. Don't do this to me. Oh, good. So it's adding automatically the property set. So if I go to extended data, I get the property set there as well. And you notice that the hatch also added. So the final thing that we did for this is that we also added the rotate hatch. So for this case, I want to have the hatching pattern around, so following the line. Then I can use rotate hatch, select my hatch, and then I can just say I want this to be along this line, like that. So that is the rotate hatch that we have down there that you want to use. So this is sort of what we added into the line style library in the last versions. We also added an update for create schedule table. So that if you want to create a schedule table for this, if you have property set on top of it, you can select the object that has the property set. You have labels already prepared. I can add a label to this one. And if I just select a rotation for it, once I have placed that one, I get an option for an arrowhead location. So I can say that, well, I want this to be from there to there, and I get the leader there. So that's just an update that we added to the labeling functionality here that you want to do. So final 3 minutes. I just want to show you where you can find all this. I've mentioned it before, but one thing before we come there, we talked about templates. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about the templates here. So when you use functionality, as Thomas said in the beginning, when you use functionality that use templates or that use labels or settings and stuff like that, they will import functionality. So for instance, reverse pipe adds a label when it's showing you the that it's been moved or that we changed the direction of the pipe. So the label that it's using is the NV reverse pipe arrow. So if that one is not inside the drawing, so if I remove this one, NV reverse pipe arrow, when I start the functionality, it will actually take a little bit longer and it will print on the command line that label imported from the file, and that is the file that is in the import status and settings. So hopefully, at least for the most of the commands, we've added this sort of text here that you can see where it actually comes from, so that we're importing it inside the drawing. So this goes for functionalities that require labels, like reverse pipe. We require a label, so we import the label. So that is how we try to figure this one out. So just so you know, so where you can get it, so you can see where it comes from, and if you want to do some changes to it, you can edit it there, and you know where it comes from. So that is how we sort of solve everything like that. For more information about this, as we said, on Naviate.com, we have our blog. So underneath Insights, you have blog and podcast, and then we can go to Naviate for Civil. And now there's nothing here. There we go. So if I go to blog and podcast, we have units and templates. This is my attempt to sort of go through both units and templates, because we also change a lot of how we handle units inside Naviate. That is probably something you'll never have to worry about. You'll just notice that it makes sense. So it shouldn't be an issue, but we actually changed a little bit. So I just took the opportunity to write a little bit about units because it's pretty complicated inside Civil. So it's always good to get more information out here. And then how both Civil handles templates, what you need to think about, what I think you need to think about, and then how Naviate handles the templates as well. So this is also up on the portal on Naviate.com. And then of course all our release news. So if you go to release news, 24.1 is now up here as well. And in tomorrow, probably, we'll also find the webinars. You have it here in the 24 release, and that will be here as well. For line style library and also for service pipe that I didn't have time to go through, we have already views of webinars here. Good, that's it for me. Bye-bye.